I know. If you listened yesterday, I'm not supposed to be here. But this was just such a great question and so timely right now. This is Jamie.
I'm just curious if there's any insight or transits or aspects that would indicate issues with tires or maybe the larger theme of travel. Both myself and I know of at least 4 other people throughout the United States who've been dealing with tire issues like blowouts or flats, or in my case, needing to do a full tire replacement on my car in the last week. So just curious if there is anything in the stars that is leading to that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Jamie. Thanks for listening. And I would add number 5 and number 6 because our Sarah Wakeman over on our Facebook group page, Subconscious Mind Mastery and Fun Astrology podcast listeners, get this. She and her boyfriend both had their cars completely die, cracked engine blocks this week. Now, what do we do with this question? Well, if you're in the Fun Astrology 101 course, you would be thinking... Now, somebody asking just a transit or aspect question, you would be thinking Gemini, right? Because we don't have a horary situation here. We're not casting a chart at a particular time and asking a yes or no question. We're looking for causes, root causes, answers. So if we were just starting with the transiting chart like we talk about every day here, there's really nothing, because we would look at Gemini and we would see at 1 degree Venus and 11 degrees Mercury. Well, they're not causing any trouble, and they're not aspecting to anything that's causing any trouble. Now, another thing you can do is cast your own natal chart and then put the transits over that, and then you read the transits relative to the houses that they fall against your natal chart. There might be something there, certainly. Then, in addition to Gemini, we obviously would look at the 3rd house, ruled by Gemini, ruled by the planet Mercury. The 3rd house represents all things transportation, including cars and tires. But without a time, then we can't lock on to a house. So right now we're dealing with Gemini, the 3rd house, if we could lock onto a particular chart, like your natal chart, or like what I chose to do. She said 4 people across the country. She obviously lives here. Sarah and her boyfriend live here. So I thought, okay, there's a common pattern. Let's take a look at the United States chart, see if there's anything there. The Sibley chart, July 4th, 1776, 5:10 p.m., Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And these solar arcs that we've been studying with the United States chart have been so prolific in talking about so many things that I cast also the solar arc chart, and then I put the transits over both of those. Now, in the United States chart, Gemini shows up in the 6th house, and then it rests on the cusp of the 7th house. So I would set that aside, and I would come back and look at the primary ruling house of transportation first. So my eyes fall to the 3rd house, which in the United States chart is ruled by Aquarius. And in the 3rd house is the United States moon. Now we're getting closer. The moon rules the people. So people's cars, or at least collective energy. And what you're describing is, what have we counted here? 7 people that have had car issues. Jamie, 4 friends, Sarah and her boyfriend. The moon in Aquarius. Well, almost sitting on top of the moon in Aquarius is Mars in solar arc. It will be there in another 2 years. And transiting Saturn is in Aquarius. It is almost sitting on top of that Mars. Now, it did turn retrograde, so it's pulling away from it, but that's Saturn sitting on top of Mars, sitting on top of the moon, the people. What else do we have in the 3rd house? In that solar arc chart, we have Uranus, surprises, sudden happenings. Sarah told me that her car literally died in the parking lot as she arrived at work. So this is just a little microcosm. I mean, this is a little tiny thing of what Robert has been preaching that is ahead based on some of these aspects of challenging times for the people collectively, with Mars and Saturn sitting on top of the moon. As I was talking to Sarah yesterday and she was telling me about this, I just had the feeling as I was listening that there was something purposeful, something karmic, something much deeper than just an automobile going on here. And we see that reflected here as well, because the other two planets that are in the third house are solar arc Jupiter and Venus in Pisces, the spiritual shift. Now, I know, you're saying, wait a minute here. You're telling me that having to put new tires on or a cracked engine block has spiritual implications? Well, here's where I digress a little bit, because when a question like this comes up, or something like this happens with somebody like Sarah, I think spirituality. Why? Because by nature, you guys are in a different spiritual league, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. And I think that there are going to be people who are going to lead the way spiritually, and sometimes this is going to be showing us the way of some things that might be happening. So what happens when you have to retire your car? Well, maybe you have a few days out where you don't drive as much. Or with Sarah, she's playing wounded right now, renting a car from a friend's discount from a car agency, and then she's going to be scrambling to find some wheels. Slowing things down, Saturnian delays, Mars, accidents, Uranus, surprises. Okay, showing up with cars today, but where might it else show up? And if it continues in the third house, then we might look at other areas that the third house rules, or we could look at aspects to the third house as things present at that time. They're not there right now. Right now we're talking about cars, and we found a home, and we certainly have found alignments for that. And also knowing who's involved, that at some point there's going to be a wonderful spiritual lesson, and consciousness will move forward. Soul growth will take place. A greater trust in the universe. Maybe a Uranian unusual provision, an unexpected benefit or gift, or some spiritual lesson that is communicated out to others to inspire them that there is indeed a shift in consciousness. Don't leave Venus and Jupiter sitting there alone, not for a minute. So, Jamie, Sarah, we are standing with you, and yes, thank you for an excellent question about a very relevant and timely topic. All right, now we will see you tomorrow for the Ray Merriman broadcast later on in the morning. Thank you so much for tuning back in today for this little wonderful surprise. We'll see you tomorrow and back on Monday.